Okay, folks, this is the EVP man, Ron. Hopefully you've seen some of my other videos and some of the work that I've done. I've got a lot of different materials on it. I want to share today a little bit on the ideas and different things behind EVP and give you a little bit of history behind it with Konstantin Raudive, who learned from Jurgensen. Basically what I want to do is just kind of cover some of the things that he did and some of the theories and some of the things that he said in his book that I have listed up there on the computer for you. Called Breakthrough, and basically what he was able to do was write a book and write of his experiences and some of the things that these disembodied voices told him. Now, we can't say that they were always ghosts because we can't prove the existence of ghosts at this point in time with science, but in theory it would stand up because we know energy cannot be created nor destroyed. So many great minds speculated that the soul did survive. If it did indeed survive after death, that it would have some of its facilities, perhaps memory and other things. So if you want a scientific explanation of a ghost, there you are. Now with that said, I'm going to show you there are different types of EVPs that are being gathered out there, A, Bs, and Cs, for example, but not only that, just different methods. And so the more common way that we mostly see among ghost hunters is using some sort of a recorder, as you see there. The device next to the recorder is a listen-up device that I use as a powered microphone at times for running my experiments here at the house. Here's another item that I use. It's a Radio Shack device. Basically, it does the same thing as a listen-up, but it has an equalizer, and it's also a little more technical. I also use an AM radio, or a radio on static as AM/FM, two ghost box. At least 4 of these items are ran in tandem together to gather the EVPs that I get. Now, a lot of people are just using the ghost box by itself, and they seem to get pretty decent results. The biggest problem that I have with using a ghost box by itself is the fact that it is a radio, and that you're running one radio, and so you may ask for something and get an eventual answer, a yes or a no, or somebody's name, and it could just simply be a statement that somebody's making or giving their name at the station. So there is a chance for error. However, with the method that I'm using, running more than one radio, I smooth them out together. It blends them together like it would be equivalent to a room full of TVs on, so to speak. Unless you truly focus in on one TV and got very close, you probably couldn't hear what was being said up there at the same volume. And of course, unless it depends on your proximity to a particular TV. So with that said, I'm using 2 ghost boxes scanning simultaneously along with a radio most of the time on a white noise station, so to speak. And I smooth it out by running it into a 4-channel equalizer. So there's a lot of different things that I'm using. The technique is still experimental, but I am having excellent results with it. With that said, I'm going to move on and tell you exactly what Raudive and others found about EVP, so that you'll have an educated point of view on it. Now, one of the things I want to point out is that we do have the different classes of EVPs, but we'll get to that. But you can see that's Raudive there and some of the work that he did. And you'll see that he pointed out a lot of different things and the different types of equipment that he used, and he also recorded the results with them. And the church, when I say the church, the Catholic Church looked into the EVP phenomenon, and basically Raudive used a lot of science. He just didn't write this book from a perspective that was totally pro and that he totally bought into it. You can see that he used right here, radio, microphone, and he said anybody can study it by fulfilling certain preconditions and take up contact with it. So anyways, I guess he would be encouraging just anybody to do this so that they could find out that it is true. It's definitely a phenomenon that science is unable to explain. There have been those who have tried to say a lot of different things that basically it was people making an imprint through telepathy and different things, but that didn't hold true. You can see here he even talks about Einstein's theory in his book Breakthrough. He gets into a lot of in-depth things trying to find out exactly where these voices were coming from. So there's a lot of good information in this book. If you get a copy of it, I'd highly advise you to read it. He kind of gives you an idea that the human ear can distinguish about 400,000 different sounds, and so you can see he put a lot of work into this book. And so I would highly advise anybody getting this book and reading it and becoming familiar with the material, so that when you're dealing with people, you can speak on the subject from a educated point of view, so to speak. Now, not only am I an EVP researcher and parapsychologist, but I'm also an open-minded skeptic. What that means is that I do believe that it is possible, but you need to show me. So I can believe something, but just seeing it, on its face value doesn't always cause me to be a believer. I want to look into it. Now, one of the things that he says, it takes at least 3 months for the ear to adjust itself in the differences. And what he's talking about there, so that you can basically hear the noises that may sound like speech. So, again, I've said this over and over again, it does take some time to develop that ear. So I think that that's very, very important. He talks about the different microphones and sounds and things that he used. And this is something that you hear a lot of people talk about, and I'm going to back this up right here. He says A-class EVP is a voice that can be heard and identified by by anyone with normal hearing and knowledge of the language. So if we were recording EVPs in Spanish, and if you don't speak Spanish, well, probably it's not going to be an A-class, because if you don't know what the word senor means, it doesn't matter. It could be some distorted English to you. He says B-class voices speak more rapidly and more softly, but are still quite plainly audible to the trained and attentive ear. Now, this is one of the situations where I might hear cat, somebody else might hear brat, and somebody else might hear the word baseball bat. Who knows? Now, he does talk about C-class. He said most interesting voices, they give us a great deal of information and on the paranormal data, but unfortunately they can only be heard in fragments, even by a trained ear. So, again, very, very important that you train your ear if you want to get good with EVP. Now, he used different devices. He used radio recording. That's basically what we're doing with the Ghost Box. He talks about a mediator or a monitor that kind of helps him establish communications. And you can obviously see there were other ways that he recorded. He used the radio microphone recording method. That's basically what I'm using here. He discovered that by accident. And he also did diode. And basically, there were several different ways that he recorded. So he didn't just look at one aspect. So he was truly an EVP researcher, as I am. Now, we've gone beyond some of these methods, and we've been able to use a more evolved technology for documenting the voices. So he even gets into the languages and how they speak, A, B, and C's, and how sometimes the words seem to be somewhat distorted, and possibilities why. He also talked about some of the individuals who listened to the words. So he found that some people were more able to make the words out due to maybe some type of background that they had. So again, there is something to it. I just want to convey to you that Raudive did look at this in a very scientific manner. So the next time that you're dealing with an individual who doesn't believe in EVP and doubts the possibility of it, perhaps that some of this information that I've shared with you today, you can share with them and find it for yourself. So we basically have to answer that question: where do the voices come from? And there's a lot of theories out there, but again, I think that if we really, really break it down, the only thing for sure that we can say is those voices come from somewhere, and where they come from, we don't know. We do know that they have accents and speak in different languages, and seem to have personality and characteristic traits. And when I say characteristic traits, sometimes they're angry words, sometimes they're calm words, emotional words. And so we believe them to come from human beings. Others will say that possibly aliens, demons, angels, or some other source. So this is just an overall breakdown of Raudive's, study into the paranormal aspect of EVP. So again, I would highly advise you to get a copy of this book and study it, and hopefully you can learn something. If you have any questions about EVP, feel free to email me at prosinvestigations.com. You can go to our website at prosinvestigations.com, and you can find our email address there, which is prosghosthunters@yahoo.com, and address me, Ron. So again, I just want to thank you for maybe taking a little bit of time and watching this video. Thank you.